Welcome to One Stop Shop, the podcast that covers all professional and collegiate sports. I'm your host, Sam Cargill, and this is our first ever podcast. We will cover the four major professional sports: international soccer, golf, lacrosse, and many other sports. As a lacrosse player throughout my life, I hate the special attention basketball and football get through the media. The goal of this podcast is to include as much sports news from as many different sports that I can cover. That doesn't mean basketball and football will not be focal points of this show. As a matter of fact, they will. The greater goal is to share the spotlight with sports like ice hockey, soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, volleyball. And these sports don't receive any media attention really whatsoever. And on the college side, we'll stick to the team sports that are being played throughout the country at this moment. Right now, that's football, basketball, women's volleyball, soccer, and ice hockey. With the intro being addressed and all of our goals of this podcast for going forward, let's get right into this week's top moments of the week. Still got to work on that. Patriots beat the Bills in 50 miles per hour winds Monday night with a final score of 14-10. It was a slugfest from start to finish. Mac Jones threw the ball 3 times for a total of 19 yards. And the Pats actually ran the ball 32 straight plays, making that one of the most run plays consecutively the NFL's seen in quite some times. They totaled 222 rush yards on the ground. That was a 3-headed attack by all 3 of the Patriots running backs, running no feature back that Bill Belichick really never likes to give up his feature back. He really keeps it rotating, gets all his guys involved, and that results in 222 yards on the ground in a game that you needed to rush for that to beat the Bills. Bill Belichick's defense also played outstanding, giving up only 10 points and forcing the Bills to punt and settle for field goals in situations where they would normally get all the way down to the red zone and score a touchdown. Pats grow their division lead over the Bills to 2 games, but the Bills do get a chance at redemption in New England in a couple of weeks. That'll be a good one in Foxborough, and we'll like to see how the Bills can bounce back from that. Sticking with the NFL, the second top moment of the week goes to Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions for finally winning a game. The Lions' struggles go back all the way 50-plus years, but this season it's been no different. Under first-time head coach Dan Campbell, the Lions really haven't done much this year. Starting the year 0-10-1 with their lone tie being the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple weeks back, 16-16, in a game that the Steelers probably should have won. Finally, Dan Campbell got in the win column on Sunday afternoon against the Vikings. In reality, the Vikings are a way better football team. They have a better quarterback, a better defense, even though the Vikings don't have much of a defense. The Lions have no defense whatsoever. The Vikings should have pulled this one away, but they let the Lions hang in there all throughout the game, and then Detroit delivered in the fourth quarter, getting Dan Campbell's first win as an NFL coach. As a Lions fan, I would hope the Ford family gives Campbell the time to turn around in the Motor City, because his players fight for him every single week. His team just frankly sucks. It's really a terrible built lineup, and they could do much better. The Ford family really hasn't invested a lot of time and effort into the Lions organization, and the fans see that, but they're still there. They're still there every week in Detroit, cheering on Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. Switching gears to the NFL for our third top moment of the week, we talk about the red-hot New York Rangers, who've won 7 games in a row and lost 1 game in the last month alone. They jumped to 6th in the power rankings this week, opposed from 10th in the league last week. Their biggest surprise has been the play of young goaltending maestro Igor Shesterkin, who has replaced the King of New York, Henrik Lundqvist, nicely this season. Igor is primed to become New York's netminder for the foreseeable future. Really, these Rangers, they've been playing really tough, really hard over the past month. As I said, only losing 1 game throughout that stretch. And really, they're just having fun. I mean, they've been primed for a good season the past couple years with the signing of Artemi Panarin, bringing in Zibanejad. They got a really good lineup. They just really had to pull it together and get their young guys more involved. And this year they've done that, but their young guys like Capo Caco Lafreniere really haven't produced what they expected for them to be. But the play of Igor and veterans like Panarin, Adam Fox, how could I forget about him? One of the best defenders in the NHL at the moment. They're just clicking. They're rolling on all cylinders. The last moment of the week comes from the University of Alabama's football and basketball team. Saturday night, the Tide faced off against the number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. The game started close, but Bryce Young was able to find ample time in the pocket and deliver beautiful touchdown passes to receivers like Jameson Williams, and John Mechie III got in there. Georgia's top-ranked defense was no match for Alabama and Young in the second half. He finished the game with 421 passing yards, 4 total touchdowns. Alabama won 24-41 and secures their spot in the college football playoff, which we will discuss later on. One thing that I've learned from being an avid supporter of college football over the course of my life is that you can't count Nick Saban out. Even on a year that it seems like he doesn't have the same guys as he usually does, his offensive line production has not been great, not giving Young time to pass in the pocket. They've been banged up. Starting running back Robinson's been hurt, banged up, but really they've been catapulted by the play of their star receivers, Jameson Williams, John Mechie III, and Bryce Young's really kept him in it throughout this season. Their one loss earlier in the year, it doesn't seem like much now. Texas A&M finished 8-4. It seems like they just had Jimbo Fisher, and Texas A&M just had Nick Saban's number that game, and Alabama's primed for another run to the national championship. And people don't like it, but Nick Saban just keeps winning, keeps getting the guys to bring his program to the top of the country every year, year in and year out. You can't count Nick Saban out. Now we move on to our college sports section, where, like I said, we will be discussing some of the more niche sports in college that you really don't ever hear about. You don't hear about the men's soccer championship, even on ESPN. Soccer is a large sport played throughout the country here, obviously. The most popular game worldwide. Billions of people play it. So that's exactly where we're going to start today, with the men's soccer championship, or the College Cup, as they call it. Men's soccer championship is well underway, with the final 4 teams set to match off on Friday. Georgetown faces Washington University, and Clemson will play the University of Notre Dame on the other side of the bracket. Soccer College Cup is known for unexpected results and upsets, so anything could happen. We do have 4 well-known programs in there. We saw St. Louis University, who has an amazing soccer program. They made it far, getting to the Elite Eight. But the College Cup, as I said, known for unexpected results and upsets. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen Friday. Virtually all the matches go into penalty shootouts, which to me, I don't know about some of these viewers out here, but penalty shootouts in soccer are about the most high pressure situations an athlete can be put in. And as you can see, it's a very simple kick, but doesn't always end well. As a goalie in soccer growing up, facing a PK was my favorite thing to do, just because if you read that penalty wrong, or if you read that penalty right, you're going home the hero, and the kid on the opposite team is going home sad and mad that he missed a fairly easy shot from just like 5 yards out. As I said before, a winner is not declared after a full match plus an overtime. They will declare a winner from penalty kicks. Again, just super high pressure scenario for the guys. These are young college kids. These kids are 18 to 22 years old on the highest stage in their country for the sport. And with a lot of people watching at home, a lot of people in the stands, and they're expected to deliver, and they don't always deliver, especially under pressure and under the lights. On the women's side, the tournament has already crowned a champion. Congrats to Florida State on their win over BYU in, who guessed it, penalty shootouts. It was a 0-0 game all the way into PKs where Florida State came on top. Man, that's interesting stuff. The women's volleyball championships have started and are down to 16 teams. Key matchups in the Sweet 16 include top-seeded Louisville will face off against the 16th seed Florida. Ohio State, the 8th seed, plays Georgia Tech, the 9th seed. Texas, last year's runner-up, plays Washington. As the runner-up in 2020, Texas looks to capture glory again this year with Kentucky, the reigning national championships, out of the bracket. We move on to men's college hockey. There's been quite a shakeup in the ranking this week, as top teams like Michigan and Minnesota Duluth have lost. Michigan had a 2-game series against their biggest interconference threat this year, that being the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Minnesota took game 1, 5-1, but Michigan came back hard, winning their second game 6-2. I do not know much about college hockey. This podcast, again, is really an immersive experience for me and its viewers watching, as I really try to get into sports that I didn't grow up playing or watching. Not knowing much about college hockey on the men's side, a game where Minnesota won 5-1 the first game and lost 7-2 the second game. It doesn't seem like that happens too much, but it seems like from some of these scores in games where in games where teams play back-to-back against each other, you see a team besting their opponent handily in the first game, but in the second game, it's always a toss-up, and that other team, like we saw Michigan did, came back their second game of the series and won 6-2. Minnesota Duluth was atop the rankings in the previous week, but continued the trend in college hockey this year of number 1 ranked teams losing. The Bulldogs played Western Michigan over the weekend and lost both games, 5-4 and 5-2. Western Michigan, man, they've jumped up into the rankings. They're 6th in the country in the polls right now, and they look to continue their hot start to the season. Surprise this week on the ice came from Quinnipiac University. They jumped to the number 2 spot in the country after starting the year 12-1-3. Quinnipiac's success has come by their outstanding defense, allowing a nationwide low of 19 goals this season through about 16, 17 games. Whatever I said, 19 goals, that's pretty impressive. Got a shout out to the freshman goalie on that team, Yaniv Peretz, who's been playing outstanding. Goals against is under a goal a game, saving everything that season or that comes to him, and they haven't let him goal in 3 straight games. So yeah, again, you gotta credit goalie Yaniv Peretz. Number 1 ranked team in this week's rankings goes to Minnesota State with a record of 14-4 against top opponents early on in the season. It's no surprise as they're top of the rankings. It's going to be weird to see if Minnesota State continues this trend of the number 1 team losing right off the bat. You've seen this before in collegiate sports. Last year in college basketball, it seemed like for a while no one wanted to stay number 1. This year in college football, Georgia's been number 1, but you see a lot of top teams losing. You got Ohio State losing, Clemson, 2-loss team this year. Just a lot of these blue bloods haven't been the same. Now, as we go into the women's hockey side, the top 10 is as followed. Wisconsin at number 1, followed by Ohio State, Northeastern, then Minnesota, Quinnipiac, Colgate, Yale, Clarkson at 8, and rounding out the top 10 is Minnesota Duluth at 9 and Harvard at 10. Wisconsin's women hockey team have held the top spot in the poll by the USCHO every week in the 12 weeks that they've competed in every every week in the 12 weeks they've done a poll. Even after a tie and a loss to Minnesota this week, they stay at the top and look to stay at the top. They got a really good team this year, and we'll see how they work out. On to college hoops now. There have been some pretty crazy upsets the past couple weeks in hoops. Purdue ranks as the top team in the country, boasting an undefeated record. They're one of 6 undefeated teams to remain in the official top 25 poll. Previous number 1, Gonzaga, dropped 2 of its last 3 games, first to Duke by 3, and then against Alabama over the weekend. Both Duke and Alabama had big time minutes from freshman projected lottery projected picks in next year's NBA draft. Duke, Paolo Banchero, had 21 points, 5 rebounds in his highly anticipated matchup with Gonzaga star Chet Holmgren. We're going to stop here and talk about this matchup for a second. Holmgren was ranked as the number 1 prospect in the class of 2021 by ESPN, 24/7 Sports. Basically, everybody had this guy as the top player, consensus top player in the nation. He came into a Gonzaga team that lost in the national championship game to Baylor last year. Returning guys, so they're looking to make another run back deep into March. And Chet's looked good. Chet's been averaging about near 15 points a game so far, and he's looked good on the offensive end, and he's also looked good as a rim protector. As about a 7-foot wing, Chet Holmgren has pretty much an untapped ceiling, untapped potential. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of his season at Gonzaga plays out. They're going to go into conference schedule in about 3 weeks to a month after Christmas, and that's when Gonzaga starts to play teams that, frankly, no one's ever heard of in the WAC, really with their only good competition in that conference being St. Mary's College. Now talk about Paolo Banchero. He's taken the country by storm this year. He's played outstanding for Duke so far. They've had a number of nationally televised games where the country has seen his amazing athleticism and movement in the open court. He just flies down the court, gets from one end of the court to another, and can drain any shot mid-range, the three-pointer. Finishes through contact at the rim. So as of right now, a lot of high draft experts have Paolo Banchero above Chet Holmgren, Chet going number 2, with Paolo being the first overall pick. Now, there's so much time till the NBA draft. We'll see what happens with these two guys, but I think it's definitely going to be one of these two as the top pick in the draft. It doesn't seem like a crazy draft talent-wise. There's always talent coming into the NBA, and we'll see. I got those two guys going number 1. My edge at the moment going to Paolo Banchero, and second being Chet Holmgren. Another thing about Paolo that we should discuss is that he's reportedly losing 7 pounds a game from sweat, and he has a condition that I guess no one really knows about, was recently diagnosed with this. And, that's another thing that we can consider in his draft stock. Will teams consider him losing 7 pounds a game as a problem? I think so. NBA, like the NFL, you have to be a very particular player to be a top-end pick, and they're not just going to throw that large signing bonus at you if they see potential injuries, health problems, and that stuff down the line. Now we talk about Alabama's win over Gonzaga the following week, this past weekend. For Alabama, it was the freshman, also a projected lottery pick, hometown hero J.D. Davidson, who had 20 points off the bench, grabbing 5 rebounds and 3 assists. This is crazy impressive when you look at Alabama's absolutely loaded backcourt with preseason All-American Jaden Shackelford and the Jelly Fam Javon Quinterly, who, if you're not familiar, took the social media basketball world by storm back in like 2016, 2017, when him and some friends from New York City started the Jelly Fam, a group of players that could not really dunk and like to finish at the rim with some fancy layups. Javon really had a rough start to his collegiate career at Villanova. Ended up transferring to Alabama, where last year he came off the bench, but played really amazing down the stretch in the SEC championship, or in the SEC tournament, and all the way into Alabama's run to the Sweet 16 this past year. Jaden Shackelford, also an amazing guard, alongside Javon Quinterly. They're probably one of the most lethal backcourts in the country. And frankly, I did not expect J.D. Davidson to contribute as much as he did in a big-time game like that was against Gonzaga the other week. Last season in college basketball, we saw a ton of blue blood programs like Duke, Kentucky, and University of North Carolina struggle greatly. We know that wasn't going to last, with Kentucky sitting right now at 10th in the country, one loss being to Duke on opening night of the NBA season. In a really, really good game, Kentucky was just slightly outmatched. I could see them playing again down the line, maybe in the NCAA tournament, and I think Kentucky has a shot at winning that. As I said too, Duke is in remarkable shape this year, this being Coach K's last season at the helm of Duke, and he really looks like he's making up for last year's sort of fluke season, we'll call it. Duke beat Kentucky, as I said earlier in the year, also with the win at Gonzaga. They're playing pretty top level basketball right now, with their one loss being the 21st ranked Ohio State, who started the season shaky but should end up being a top team as the season progresses. With the season about a month in now, teams settled into playing. Not as much tip-off tournaments going on where teams are traveling all the way across the country. Little sleep, little time to recover. Now we're in the thick of non-conference play. This is a great time of the year. We got the inter-tournament battles, like the Big East, Big 12 battle, which is going on currently as I record this. But what a time now, as a month into the season, to talk about March Madness and what I believe the tournament will bring us. So for the 2022 Final Four, I see it as this: Duke, UCLA, the University of Connecticut, and Baylor. Now, you see three top programs in there that are sitting at the top of the rankings. Duke sitting at third, Baylor being second ranked in the country, and UCLA is at 4 or 5. Now, the one dark horse there is UConn. I'm going to start with UConn because I think that they have the capabilities and the coaching staff to make a very, very deep run in this year's playoffs. They're my dark horse, as I said. Nevertheless, their ranking right now, sitting at 15th in the country with a record of 8-2. They got a great team, great experience with freshman production, which is key. The backbone of this team being senior guard RJ Cole. This small guard from New Jersey picks apart defenses and really can get any shot he wants. Not the fastest guy, doesn't beat you with his speed off the dribble, beats you with his tremendous ball fakes, his lethal shooting from deep. If you go underneath the screen, you know RJ Cole's taking advantage of that, hitting that shot. Just a really great veteran leadership from him. It was really fun to see him last year with lottery pick James Bouknight, who now is in the NBA playing for the Charlotte Hornets on their G League team, the Greensboro Swarm. That backcourt with RJ Cole and Bouknight was really, really electric and really, really fun to watch. Bouknight, a high-flying guard. RJ, this meticulous point guard who can kind of control what's going on and slow down the pace of the game. Now RJ's a senior. He's playing with a less experienced player, with Hawkins, who's a freshman, giving them incredible production as a two guard, hitting the open shot, really all they can ask for, or really all that Dan Hurley can ask for from his freshmen. As I said, Dan Hurley is a great coach, and I believe that he's got these guys in stores doing the right thing to win basketball games, and we'll see that production in March. Now let's talk about UCLA. Also, UCLA has a top coach in college basketball. In my opinion, they also have the best player in college hoops, and that's Johnny Juzang. Johnny Juzang's redshirt junior year right now, he's averaging 18 points a game, about a couple rebounds, a couple assists, really a pure scorer. That's all you're going to get from him. Juzang scorched up the NCAA tournament last year. The most outstanding player there, by far, best player on the court, every game, doesn't matter who won the national championship, Juzang was the best player on that court. I expect him to come back this season with some veteran experience, and I expect him to take over late in games. I think Juzang is really going to bring UCLA home a national championship this year, and that's who I have winning it all. They also return all of their starters from last year, making their team virtually the same as the previous squad, with some more experience and some older guys now that will get some chances to play off the bench. Now let's go back to Duke. The reason why I see Duke getting to the Final Four is because of the star underclassmen they have, like Banchero that I said, and also Trevor Keels, who is starting for the Blue Devils and averaging about 11 points a game at the two-guard position. Returning players like Wendell Moore Jr., who's averaging nearly 18 a game, and Jeremy Roach, who is an extremely athletic guard who can hit the open shot and drive to the basket, also a capable defender. With those four guys leading the way for Duke, with also guys like Joey Baker off the bench, who I think is a great player, I see them marching all the way into late March and April at the Final Four. Last team I have in the Final Four is Baylor. Much like UCLA, Baylor returns a ton of guys from last year's national title winning team. They did lose Davion Mitchell, who is a very good player in the NBA, and I expect to be the top defender in the league for years to come. Not yet. He'll get there, though. Maceo Teague, also an NBA player at the moment. Believe he's in the G League, though. He'll get his chance to shine. And Mark Vital, who didn't get drafted, now a member of the Seattle Seahawks practice team. Vital was, vital to Baylor's championship run last year. He's going to be a tough loss, but the key to Baylor's repeat Final Four appearance comes from the Mullet Mamba, Matt Mayer, and as well as Adam Flagler. Matthew Mayer is a great player. He can shoot the three. He can shoot off the dribble. He can create a shot off the dribble. And when teams overplay him on the three-point line, he can get to the basket and use his 6'9" frame to score the ball. I believe him and Adam Flagler will be the key to this squad, and they will be the focal points this year, as you've seen. Started out 8-0, second in the country. I really think that they're going to be a great team for years to come. Now on to the most anticipated topic of today. Right now, we will discuss the college football landscape. And it's pretty insane. The playoffs are set. We got coaches moving around. We got transfer portal going crazy. Players going to different schools. We're going to see how everything works out. But first, we have a break from our sponsor.
At the moment, One Stop Shop is currently not sponsored. If you would like to sponsor us, please contact the number 555-385-6824. Now, back to the podcast.
Welcome back to One Stop Shop. I'm your host, Sam Cargill, and let's get right into this college football playoff action. So now, as I said before, we got to discuss the college football landscape. Playoffs are set. First matchup, number 1 Alabama versus number 4 Cincinnati. Second matchup being the number 2 seeded Michigan versus the 3 seed Georgia Bulldogs. I see an Alabama versus Michigan final, with Alabama coming on top. Predictable, but I cannot see a way for Georgia to coming back from the SEC championship loss they faced last week to beat Michigan and then beat Alabama. This time, when Alabama knows that they are the best team out there. In the championship game, I really don't see a way that Michigan could compete with Alabama for 4 quarters. I do think it'll be a close game all the way up until the 4th quarter. But as I said before, you can never count out Nick Saban, and he's a better coach than Harbaugh. Whether you like it or not, Harbaugh is a good coach. He's gone through some things, but he's rebounded and he's brought this Michigan program back to the top of the college football world. It's great to see him in the playoffs, but I'm sorry to all the Wolverine faithful out there. I really do not see them be able to get this done against Alabama. But first, we're going to go in depth more about these matchups and how the committee came to this. Frankly, I hate what they did here. I believe that Michigan should be the number 1 seed. And I do believe that Alabama is number 2, with the Georgia Bulldogs at 3 and Cincinnati at 4. I believe that the matchups should have been Michigan versus Cincinnati and Alabama versus Georgia. With quality of wins, I think that, I guess you could say, yes, Alabama beat Georgia. That would make them the best team, with their one loss being the Texas A&M, and Michigan lost to Michigan State, but won out the rest of their schedule, beating Ohio State, winning the Big Ten championship against Iowa. I still see, even though with the quality of wins that the SEC gives you, I still see Michigan as the number 1 seed in this tournament, and they should have been. I believe that this is just straight up a way for the College Football Playoff Committee to get their SEC versus SEC championship like they always want, because it brings in the most money, Alabama versus Georgia. And even though Michigan is no slack on the bringing in money side, they love their blue blood matchup. I've been saying blue blood way too much this episode, but they love it. They love that matchup, and that's the one that they expect to see. But I really do not think that Georgia can beat Michigan. I think Georgia, frankly, they don't have a quarterback. Stetson Bennett is not a great threat. I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball on offense against Michigan, with Hutchinson playing DN, Heisman candidate too, by the way. But now let's move on to the crazy coaching carousel moves that are going on throughout the country, starting with Brian Kelly to Louisiana State University. This is a crazy controversial topic, as Brian Kelly left the program in the evening one night, and basically all of his players found out through social media, through tweets and texts and whatnot, and they didn't hear from their coach, which I've never been through a situation like that, but after hearing stories of what it's like to have a guy believe in you, say, hey, you're going to win the national championship, we're going to compete against the best teams in the country every week, and then he just leaves you when you still have a chance at winning the national championship. I don't like the move. I think it's cowardly, but again, you really can't blame Brian Kelly. He's proved it at Cincinnati in a group of 5. He's proved it at Notre Dame, a place that, has been historically an amazing program, one of the best programs of all time. Brian Kelly brought them back. They weren't a good team before he took over that job, and he's not a great recruiter, but what Brian Kelly does is he gets the best out of his players, and he inspires them in a way for them to be able to compete against the best in the country. He also has a great eye for talent when they're once they get to the school. LSU's in trouble though. A lot of people on the move, quarterbacks transferring, recruits decommitting. and frankly, I really do not know why. I get that Ed Orgeron brought these guys in, and Coach O was beloved by everybody, by the college football, by everybody. He was loved. But already like a week into his job, Brian Kelly is facing adversity that new coaches do not get when they're already in the off season, like Brian Kelly is. He's lost 2 scholarship quarterbacks. Their sixth year COVID year player who is able to play that long because of the COVID eligibility year, and Max Johnson, who started for them last year and threw 27 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Pretty good stats, pretty amazing stats in the Southeastern Conference. Even though LSU did have a pretty down year, Johnson was a good quarterback and only a sophomore. As Johnson leaves, so does his 4-star younger brother, who was a senior in high school. Jake Johnson, the number 1 tight end in the country, has also decommitted from the Tigers. Along with Jake Johnson goes 4-star wide receiver from Louisiana, committed to LSU, no longer, DeColdest Crawford. And it's a sad day in LSU history, as DeColdest Crawford has been committed there for quite some time, I believe since he was a freshman in high school. And with a name like DeColdest, you're bound to get some headlines, and he did. And he's become a fixture in the recruiting and college football world throughout Twitter and social media. So it's sad that we never get to see him suit up for LSU. But we'll see where DeColdest ends up. He's a very talented player, 4-star recruit. He's going to end up somewhere, and he's going to play quality football. But moving on from Brian Kelly and LSU, we got Mario Cristobal. Head coach of Oregon has announced that he's packing his bags and he's moving to South Beach, his hometown. He's going to the Hurricanes and he's taking over down there. This is a good move if you're Miami. This is devastating if you are Oregon. He's a good coach. He wasn't a Lincoln Riley, who we'll get to. He wasn't a Nick Saban, but he can get recruits, and in his home state of Florida, back in his hometown, I think he's going to do quite well as Miami head coach. And it's good to see that Miami is back investing in their athletic programs. The details have not been released of Cristobal's contract, but to get him away from Oregon, where there's a lot of money, a lot of boosters, Miami had to have done quite well for themselves and offered him a handsome deal. We'll put it at that. Moving on now to the head coach change that everybody has been talking about and has taken the social media landscape by storm is Lincoln Riley has left Oklahoma University for Southern California to become the head coach at University of Southern California, USC Trojans. USC, man, talk about boosters and Miami throwing a lot of money at Cristobal. The USC contract with Lincoln Riley has been released, and the details are public, and they're pretty ridiculous. The University of Southern California has bought Lincoln Riley's family's 2 Oklahoma homes, $500,000 over asking price. They've bought him a $5 million mansion in Los Angeles, and this is where it gets quite ridiculous. A private jet at his beck and call, 24/7 for himself and his family. And I mean, some people might say, take the private jet, it's all I need. Well, how about $110 million guaranteed? Lincoln Riley, I do not blame you for leaving Oklahoma. That is quite literally the craziest deal I've ever seen, regardless of sports. And I mean, I've seen Patrick Mahomes near $500 million deal. I see LeBron James, Steph Curry, James Harden making so much money. it's gross. But this is remarkable. As a head coach, not even a player, University of Southern California has done quite well with this hire, and I believe it already is paying off. As I'm about to say, Lincoln Riley is bringing all of his 5-star recruits from Oklahoma with him. He recruits Southern California extremely well, and he recruits that part of the area extremely well. And if he's getting guys to come all the way from Los Angeles to go to Norman, Oklahoma, he's going to have no problem getting those guys to stay in sunny, beautiful Los Angeles. And the recruits have already started to come in, and not only just recruits, 5-star recruits that were already committed to Oklahoma have quickly decommitted and already committed to University of Southern California. Malachi Nelson, 5-star quarterback, number 1 quarterback in the class of 2023. He's a junior in high school, decommitted from Oklahoma as soon as he heard the news about Lincoln Riley. 2 days later, really didn't waste much time whatsoever, Malachi Nelson has committed to University of Southern California. After Nelson flipped his decision from OU to USC, 5-star running back from modern day, regarded as the top high school program in the country, Raleek Brown has also flipped his commitment from Oklahoma to USC. It's going to be really exciting how USC's roster shapes up for Riley in the following years. We'll see. They have Drake London, who is a 1,000-yard receiver this year, also plays on the Trojans basketball team. I don't believe he's not playing this year, but he has in the past. Pretty cool for a dual sport athlete. But he averaged 1,000 yards this season receiving. We'll see what he does. He can declare for the draft. We'll see if he goes to the draft. We'll see if he stays for a year with Lincoln Riley. They got Jackson Dart, who's a very promising young freshman quarterback this year. Took over the job of Slovis midway through the year, who Keaton Slovis was supposed to be the truth. He was supposed to take over USC and really bring them back, but it's looking like that could be Jackson Dart or that could be Malachi Nelson. And who could have forgot the Oklahoma quarterback from this year, Caleb Williams, has not announced his transfer yet. Kind of deciding to see how things work out, see who Oklahoma hires. But I think it's smart, He's really in no rush. He's got plenty of time. If Caleb can stay at Oklahoma a year and go somewhere after that, or hell, he might even just finish his career at Oklahoma and then go straight to the NFL draft. But it would be pretty cool to see him transfer to USC as well. He's probably, I'd say, a better quarterback than Jackson Dart at USC right now. But that would definitely be a QB battle, and who knows? He could go anywhere. Caleb is not restricted to following his coach. For all I know, he could go anywhere in the country if he decides to leave. Yeah, the college football landscape has been crazy this entire year. We got parallels to the 2007 season where just every team lost at the top of the list. No team wanted to hold a top ranking that season. And this year, it's definitely to a lesser extent, top teams are losing. But, we really did not see, everyone thought Georgia was the only good team in the country. And they lost to Alabama now. Now there's no undefeated teams in the country that are competing for a national championship besides the Cincinnati Bearcats. And going back to Cincinnati, it's going to be exciting to see what Cincy does against Alabama. I can't see them having too much success, as Alabama is just so good this year and every year. Desmond Ridder, Luke Fickell, they're going to have to scheme up a very, very good game plan against Alabama, and Luke Fickell is going to have to coach the game of his life to beat Nick Saban, but we'll see. I do think, and I did see Kirk Herbstreit talk about how he could see a Michigan versus Cincinnati final. Now, I really do not think that's possible, but anything can happen. In a world where sports, you see a lot of upsets and unpredictability, like we talked about in the College Cup earlier, and college basketball, March Madness, tons of upsets. College football, you really do not see that. 9 times out of 10, the top team will win just because of the way the game is set up. So we're going to end our podcast here with some NFL talk and then this week's top play. And boy, do we got a good one. So for our NFL talk, I want to go back to the Patriots for a little bit. The Patriots are a legit team and legit Super Bowl contenders. Many people really do not like to admit that. Bill Belichick, like I was talking about Nick Saban earlier, you cannot count him out. He is the greatest football coach to ever live. He is one of the greatest football minds to ever live. And him and Tom Brady paired together was incredible. Now we've seen Tom Brady go and win a championship, won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay last year. Now I would really like to see Bill Belichick make a run at this thing without Tom Brady and with his rookie quarterback, Mac Jones. It'll be really interesting to see how the rest of this season shakes out for the Patriots. They have a bye this week, and then they go play the Colts, who are on a little bit of a hot streak themselves, starting the year, I believe 2-5, 1-5 with Carson Wentz at the helm. He's turned things around. They've turned Jonathan Taylor into the best running back in the league while Derrick Henry is injured. Derrick Henry is the best. Jonathan Taylor, though, is having an incredible season. He's really proving all the doubters wrong that said that he wouldn't produce the same numbers that he did at Wisconsin. But he is a legit NFL running back. And behind that offensive line led by Quinn Nelson, the Colts, they can run the football, and they can run the football a lot. But so can the New England Patriots. So that's going to be a really exciting game. And then after that, the Patriots will play the Bills again, this time at Foxborough. Big redemption game for the Bills. Not slated to be 50-mile-per-hour winds and snowy and rainy like it was in Buffalo. But we'll see, anything can happen. Moving on to other football scores throughout the league. We're just going to go right through from top to bottom. Thursday night, the Cowboys beat the Saints. This was with a very battered Saints team. They've lost 7 in a row, I believe, or 5 in a row, starting the year 5-2. Jameis Winston out, Trevor Siemian in there for a couple weeks, and now Taysom Hill, who is still injured, by the way, playing quarterback. It really does not look good for them and their hopes for the playoffs. But I still think next year, with Jameis Winston at the helm, they'll be a fun team to play. Sean Payton, always a good coach. And we'll see how things shake up. Now on to the Sunday slated games. We had the Buccaneers play the Falcons. Falcons kept it interesting for a while, but dynamic duo again, Brady and Gronk. I believe Gronk had 2 touchdowns, and they just keep adding to their totals together and their illustrious career as the greatest duo in football. That's up for debate now. In Kyler Murray's return, the Cardinals beat the Bears. Looking like the Bears are done for now this season. Matt Nagy has still not been fired. That is a travesty. If they want to succeed, they need to get a young and well-respected coach that can get Justin Fields to become the best quarterback that he can possibly be. And if they do that, I think the Bears, they have a very good roster from top to bottom, but they're 4-8 because they can't score the football. They can't pass the football Matt Nagy, he averages through his career as a coach, he's had about 150 passing yards per game, and that can't cut it in the NFL in this air raid era of football. Moving on, we got the Chargers and the Bengals. Chargers moved to 7-5, while the Bengals also moved to 7-5. Chargers won 41-22. Now the question is, can the Chargers play like this for the rest of the season? Because they have the talent, and I like their coach. I like Staley, and I love Justin Herbert. They have the talent to make a run. Not quite deep in the playoffs, but I think they are a playoff team. But they're just inconsistent. Sometimes they can't get stops on defense. Sometimes they can't run the ball. Sometimes Herbert has no help from his offensive line. Special teams isn't great sometimes. They really just have to put it all together, and I think they will. Maybe not this season, but I think they'll be an amazing team to come, and Justin Herbert will be the future of this league. As we talked about earlier, the Vikings played the Lions, and the Lions won their first game of the year with a score of 27-29. Next game was the Dolphins and the Giants. Tua played well, probably one of his better games all season. Dolphins are, back in the, I guess you could say back in the playoff hunt. 6-7, start of the year, dismally, winning their first game and then losing like 5 or 6 straight with Tua out. But Giants also moved to 4-8. They can't really put together a string of games, and we'll see what they do in this upcoming draft. Next, the Eagles played the Jets. The Eagles moved to 13-0 all time against the New York Jets. Never lost. Pretty cool stat. Jalen Hurts was hurt. This game, and Gardner Minshew got his shot to step in and shine and played well. Scored on, I think, 7 consecutive drives in the game. Jake Elliott, their field goal kicker, had a great game, great outing, 4 field goals made. On to the next game. As we talked about, the Colts on a little bit of a roll right now, 7-6. Darius Leonard had a great game on the defensive end. He's back in there. Hopefully he stays healthy. Texans moved to 2-10. Colts win the game 31-0. The Washington football team faced off against the Raiders of Las Vegas this week. The Raiders continue their slide down as they looked like one of the better teams in the league at the start of the season, but with all the off-the-field stuff that's gone on with John Gruden being fired and Henry Ruggs spending the rest of his life in prison now, it was a pretty tough season for the Raiders, and I can't imagine being a young guy on that roster and just really kind of going through the guy who drafted you, getting pushed out the door, and then, one of your teammates, one of your friends making a horrible life decision, and that costs him his career and really his the rest of his life, his freedom. The Rams bounced back and beat the Jaguars this week, 37-7. Rams snapped their 3-game losing streak, which is good. Matthew Stafford looked good. Steelers beat the Ravens in a thrilling game. I don't know if you watched it, but man, those last couple minutes of that game were pretty crazy. Ended with John Harbaugh and the Ravens attempting to go for 2 and not getting it. Steelers win 2019, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Got to give credit to Mike Tomlin, man. A great coach in the NFL, and really just keeps this Steelers team going week in and week out every year when they don't look like they can compete. He gets it done. Seahawks moved to 4-8, beating the 49ers. That was a pretty wild game too. Late game heroics and from Russ and some mistakes from the 49ers and some missed opportunities led that game to get blown open by the Seahawks, and they took the lead and won. 49ers, that was really a must-win for them. I think they're still in the hunt obviously, for the playoffs, but with the way they started their season, it's going to be tough. 2 years ago, they were looking like the best team in football, and now 6-6, 12 games into the year, 5 games to go. Chiefs are back, now winning, I believe, 4 straight. Chiefs beat the Broncos 22-9. It was a good game all around. Again, like the Chiefs, they do not seem as explosive, as fiery as they have in the past, but I believe Andy Reid is going to get his team to the playoffs, of course, but again, make another Super Bowl run. Patrick Mahomes, his numbers have, I guess you could say, dropped off since his ridiculous MVP year a couple seasons back, but he's still the best football quarterback there is out there, and there's really no denying that. Teams game plan him and really just throw everything they have at him at all times because they know he's the best, even though he might not play the best week to week. And then, as we discussed earlier, the Monday night game, Patriots beat the Bills 14-10. Now, we're going to head back and talk about our play of the week. Play of the week this week is a great one. Comes from the NHL. Anaheim Ducks up against the Buffalo Sabres. They won 2-0. And one of those goals was an absolute beauty from Trevor Zegras to Sonny Milano. Roll the clip.
Zegras behind the net. He knows he's there. He goes right to him. Zegras, here he can. Oh, look at this! Oh, it's in! Oh my goodness! What a goal! Oh, it's Milano!
Pass to Milano. Wow! And you can see Zegras too. He grabs his head.
Wow, what a play by Zegras and what a finish by Milano. I don't know about that, but that seems pretty tough to hit that out of the air like that. Just bat it in, keep your stick below the crossbar because that would be a high sticking call. You could see the look on Zegras' face, like he did not expect that to happen, and the Ducks are playing well. With their young core led by Zegras, Milano, and Jamie Drysdale, they're rolling, and they're having fun. The Ducks are fun. The Anaheim Ducks of Los Angeles are having some fun. And that's going to conclude our first podcast episode here at One Stop Shop. I've been your host, Sam Cargill, and I want to give a huge shout out to all the people that made it through me talking for this long. I know it's not easy. And all of us here from One Stop Shop, thank you for watching, and have a good night.